Hey everybody, it's Eric Pappenfuss. It's Friday, so it must be a buy day. And we're at the home office today, Kathy, to record a very interesting buy day about another famous author.
So exciting.
Our topic today is Henry James and the picturesque.
Ooh.
We're going to get going, but before we get to the books, I did mention last week on Buy Day that we had a signed Buckminster Fuller book that came into the bookstore. I wanted to show you that one. This was interesting. Bucky Fuller, coiner of the term spaceship Earth, as well as inventor of the geodesic dome. Pretty cool one to an interesting Canadian, Dr. Pleba. We actually got this book over the summer when we were up in Canada on our tours.
Neat.
And it will now be in the Scholar in the collectible building. So I said we're going to talk about Henry James and the picturesque. But before we get to Henry James, we should probably talk a little bit about the picturesque and what exactly that was. The picturesque was an aesthetic ideal that really came about in 18th century England due to the writings of one particular clergyman by the name of William Gilpin. And we happen to have a lot of Gilpin's works in the store. This is a later edition of one of his works here on Forest Scenery. But the concept of the picturesque was basically if you would take the beauty on the one hand and the sublime on the other hand, and if you were to combine them into a beautiful image or a picture or a landscape, that's what Gilpin called the picturesque. And what is remarkable about this particular Gilpin book is not the images that are in it like so many of the others that we have in the collectible building. It is that there is a hidden manuscript letter in the beginning of this book.
How exciting.
Which was written by Gilpin. And first I'll show you the signature here. So Gilpin, of course, invents the term the picturesque, but he at this point in time, in 1797, what's interesting about this letter is he's writing to a publisher. You can see that he's writing to a publisher in the Strand. That's where the publishers would have been. It's Cadell and Davies. And he's asking them to reprint a copy of a book which he published when he was younger. And he's asking if he could please remain anonymous in the reprinting. Which is important because this is actually a book that's only been attributed to Gilpin, but now, I mean, this letter sort of proves that it is.
So exciting.
What's interesting is that he says that, I do not care to put my name to it because the subject is rather offensive. Do you see that here in the letter? The subject is rather offensive. I do not care to put my name to it. And then if you flip over and you look at the letter here, Kathy, you can see, it is one thing to own and another to be suspected. Do you know what things he was writing about in this book, which he thought was questionable? Well, it's called The Amusements of a Clergyman. And do you know what the amusements for Gilpin were?
No.
Going to the theater, playing cards, going to the races, all those exciting things. But Gilpin comes up with the term the picturesque.
Beautiful.
Now, that is an art in the 18th century, but it quickly becomes applied to literature in the 19th century, and really it sort of culminates in the works of Henry James. He's considered the sort of master of the picturesque. And this interesting book came in. It reminded me of the Gilpin book, because look, Kathy, it too contains a secret letter here in the front of it. This is actually a letter, though, that it was written by Henry James himself and signed there Henry James. And it's interesting because and this is his address when he was living in London. You can still visit the home today. But he basically is declining an invitation to give a book talk for the Booksellers Associations. And he's really busy and he's got a lot going on. But that's interesting. And this book is a novella, or a series of novellas, but the one I wanted to talk a little bit about is A London Life, because it really is a part of the picturesque. So as a novella, Henry James, you know what he's writing about in A London Life?
No.
He is writing about the dissolution of the marriage, adultery, and basically the sort of inner workings of a very failed marriage. And so some have called this book ugly. And ugly is a term associated with the picturesque, right? Associated with the sublime. And it's this mixture of the sort of beauty of James's writing, his characterizations with the ugliness of the plot line that gives you the term picturesque.
Interesting.
And I think the fact that it's called ugly or unpleasant by reviewers, it reminds me a little bit of Shaw, and his play is unpleasant as well. But they're all playing on the same thing, which is serious themes, serious and important themes, but no longer, sort of lifting the veil and looking inside a marriage. So that's what James is doing in A London Life. Now, in the back of the book, though, Kathy, there was another letter, and
neat.
I have put this letter in plastic so that you can see it. And I really do like this letter as much as the other. Now, this was just folded in. The first letter is what we call tipped in. That's when the owner has clearly, they want the letter to be seen, and it's tipped in, just like the Gilpin letter. This letter was just folded in the back, and I'm not even sure that the previous owner knew that letter was there.
Wow.
And if you look at this letter, you can see that it is signed by H. James, but that is not Henry James. It's not the author, Henry James. It's his father, Henry James.
Oh, neat.
And you know this in part because of the address here. Kathy, can you see that? Which is 58 West 14th Street. That is the New York, the very famous, Washington Square address where the Jameses lived. And of course, James has a very famous sister and brother, William and Alice. They are all sort of part of a family with a strong patriarch by the name of Henry James Sr. And one of the nice things about our Henry James section of the Scholar is that you can find books about the family and the patriarch along with the novels of Henry James and the criticism of Henry James and books about Henry James and the picturesque. But I got this book off our shelf, and you can see it was in the James section of the famous authors, to try and better understand this letter. And why would this letter be in the back, tucked in the back of Henry James's novel, A London Life, right? Well, if you look at the contents of the letter, you'll first see that he's writing to my dear Mrs. Willis, and he's writing to the wife of a very famous author, N.P. Willis, and he's basically saying that they can't come over for dinner and to their soirees. They're a little too busy, but you can congratulate Mr. Willis on, his being able to get out of this evening. What's interesting is that N.P. Willis at the time, and this letter is written about 1850, is the highest paid magazine author in all of America.
Wow.
He's great friends with Poe and Longfellow. He's edited gift books. He's basically, Willis appears in all of the various anthologies and things which, but by this time, as magazines have taken over gift books and have become the culture of the day, he's the highest paid. He's editing. He's doing all sorts of writing. He's the first to print Poe's The Raven with Poe's own name. He will eventually go on to edit and defend Poe against the attacks of Griswold and others. He introduces Poe to Osgood, who we've talked about, and his love affair. He's a very interesting guy. He also employs a freed slave by the name of Harriet Jacobs, who writes a very famous autobiography.
Right.
But let's just note for a moment that in 1850, however, Willis was involved in a great scandal, and Henry James writes about it. Henry James Sr. writes about it. So it's an interesting this declining of Willis coming over to dinner may have had a little something to do with the fact that Willis had recently been beaten in the streets of Washington Square by the very famous actor Edwin Forrest. And he's of Pennsylvania fame and Philadelphia fame for all of his time in the Walnut Street Theater and everything, doing all the great Shakespeare plays. Anyhow, Forrest accuses Willis of seducing his wife and ruining his marriage. This goes to divorce court and libel court, and he's sued for back and forth. And basically a series of witnesses are produced that, suddenly it echoes the plot very much of A London Life. And in the trial, everything is laid bare. And although Forrest's wife Catherine is eventually, exonerated, and Forrest, by the way, was a hothead who had his own affairs. This was not no one was above reproach in this. but the dissolution of a marriage and Willis's own role in that was the scandal in America in 1850 at the time of the letter, and that could have been a formative story for the young then Henry James Jr., who then read about it and then eventually wrote A London Life. So a pretty interesting thing to find stuck in the back of the book. And we're going to end today with a funny book.
Okay.
I figured we needed a book that could combine beauty with ugliness, right? Something in the spirit of the modern day picturesque. Well, how about this? Make Something Ugly, a guide to paper mache.
Oh
now,
my.
What's interesting about this book is it is filled with some of the most detailed and extraordinary creations, such as fish and chips and the piggy banksis, and well, we could just go on and on. And on the one hand, they fit in the frame of a picture, and they both are beautiful in their own way, but also certainly ugly. So perhaps the modern day version of the picturesque, but a book dedicated to that very fact as well. Make Something Ugly, now available in the humor section of the Midtown Scholar. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you'll watch next Friday and every Friday at noon for more adventures in the world of books.